I'm Lena, and my life in a quiet Ohio suburb used to feel like a faded photograph. Colorless, predictable, trapped in a frame of routine with my husband, Mark. But beneath the surface of our beige walls and silent dinners, a storm was brewing. A restless ache I couldn't name clawing at my heart. I thought I knew loneliness, staring out my kitchen window at a world that felt just out of reach, until one twilight evening when Mark's shadow in the doorway carried a darkness I'd never seen before. What he said next shattered the fragile illusion of our marriage, leaving me teetering on the edge of a betrayal so raw, I'm not sure I'll ever recover from it. Stick around to find out what happened when the quiet of my life exploded into something unthinkable. Picture this, a single, unbroken thread of twilight stretching across a muted sky, the kind of evening that feels like it's holding its breath. That's where I am right now, caught in the stillness of my own life. My name's Lena, and I'm 37, living in a quiet suburban pocket of Ohio where the days blend into one another like watercolor on damp paper. I'm not tall, not short, just average, with shoulder-length brown hair that I barely bother to style anymore. My hazel eyes, though, they're tired, heavy with things I've never said out loud, like they're carrying secrets even I don't fully understand. I'm married to Mark. He's 40, a man with a stocky frame, dark hair thinning at the crown, and a gaze that always seems to be looking past me, through me, to some place I can't reach. We've been together for 12 years, married for 10 of them, and our home is a modest 2-story house with beige walls that feel as uninspired as our conversations. The lawn is neatly trimmed, more out of habit than pride, and inside, the living room is filled with furniture that looks like it belongs in a catalog, perfectly placed, but hollow, like props in a play no one's watching. There's a beige couch, a glass coffee table, a TV mounted on the wall, all of it arranged just so, but none of it feels like us. Our marriage isn't the kind that explodes with shouting or shatters with slammed doors. No, it's quieter than that, more insidious. There's no laughter echoing through these rooms, no tender glances over dinner. We're like two strangers cast in the same tired production, reciting lines from a script we stopped believing in years ago. I see it in the smallest moments, the ones that cut deepest because they're so mundane. Every morning at 6:45 sharp, Mark sits at the kitchen table eating his cereal in complete silence, the only sound the clink of his spoon against the bowl. I watch him from the doorway sometimes, wondering when we stop talking about our days. Then there's me, folding laundry in the basement. Not because it needs to be done down there, but because it's a space where I can breathe without feeling his presence looming nearby. And at night, when we climb into bed, there's this unspoken divide, a cold expanse of sheets between us, like a no-man's land neither of us dares to cross. I lie there, staring at the ceiling, wondering how we got so far apart without ever moving. I can't shake this restlessness inside me, this quiet ache that's been growing, gnawing at the edges of my thoughts. I don't even know what I'm yearning for, not really, just something more, something alive. I find myself standing at the kitchen window more often than I'd like to admit, staring out at the neighbors' kids chasing each other across their yard, their shrieks of joy slicing through the stillness. It makes me wonder what I've missed, what I've let slip through my fingers without even noticing. I'm still standing at that window in my mind, lost in thought, when I hear the front door creak open. My heart gives a little jolt, pulling me back to the present. I turn from the kitchen, wiping my hands on a dish towel, and make my way to the living room. That's when I see him, Mark, standing in the doorway, his silhouette framed by the dim glow of the overhead lamp. His face is unreadable, a mask of shadows and silence, and I feel the air thicken around us, heavy with something I can't name. I'm sitting on the couch now, the remote control in my hands, and as he steps closer, My fingers tighten around it instinctively. My knuckles pale, the skin stretching taut, like I'm bracing for something I can't see coming. The tension coils tighter in my chest, a silent storm brewing in the space between us. He lowers himself into his armchair across from me, the leather groaning under his weight. A sound that feels louder than it should in this suffocating quiet. I keep my eyes on the blank TV screen, not daring to meet his gaze, but I can feel it, his stare, heavy and unyielding, pressing against me like a physical weight. Minutes drag by, each one stretching into eternity, until finally he breaks the silence. His voice cuts through the stillness, low and deliberate, and though I'm not ready to share his words just yet, I can tell you this. They hit me like a slow-moving wave, calm on the surface, but hiding a dangerous undertow. My pulse quickens, a frantic rhythm pounding in my ears, and my mind scrambles to decipher his tone. It's steady, almost too composed, but there's something else there, lurking beneath the calm, a darkness, a sharpness I can't quite pin down. It's like he's holding something back, something that could unravel everything if I let myself think about it too long. My thoughts spiral, dragging me back to moments I've tried to bury. I remember our 5th anniversary, sitting across from each other at that overpriced restaurant downtown, the candlelight flickering between us. We didn't speak, not really, just empty pleasantries to fill the void, our forks clinking against plates as we avoided each other's eyes. I think of another time, maybe a year ago, when I was cleaning out a drawer and found an old photo of us at a county fair. We were young, grinning like fools, my head on his shoulder, his arm around me tight. Staring at that picture, I felt this ache, this hollow pang for who we used to be, for the warmth that's long since faded into something cold and unfamiliar. I'm so tired now, bone-deep exhausted from the act of pretending. I've smiled at neighbors during block parties, nodding along to their small talk while my insides churned. I've told myself over and over that this is enough, that this half-life is all I deserve. But deep down, I know it's not true. It's been a few days since that heavy conversation in the living room, the one that left me reeling with words I couldn't fully process at the time. I'm standing in the kitchen now, the morning light filtering through the blinds in thin, pale streaks. I'm pouring coffee into a chipped mug, the dark liquid sloshing a little as my hand trembles ever so slightly. The air smells of burnt toast and routine, and Mark is sitting at the table, flipping through his phone when he says it, casual as if he's mentioning the weather. "Tonight's the night, Lena." My stomach drops, a cold, sinking weight, and I nearly spill the coffee. I grip the pot tighter, my knuckles whitening as his words from that evening flood back, unbidden, like a wound reopening. I hear his voice again, low and deliberate, from that night on the couch. "I want you to do it with my friends. I'll just watch." Those words hit me now like a fist to the gut, stealing my breath all over again. I'm frozen, staring at the steam rising from my mug, my mind a chaotic storm of disgust, confusion, and something else. A numbing exhaustion that smothers everything. It's like I've been running on empty for so long that I don't even have the energy to fight. I don't scream. I don't cry. I just nod, my voice coming out hollow, barely a whisper. "Okay." The word feels like ash in my mouth, but I say it anyway, because what else is there to do? The day drags on, each hour a slow march toward the inevitable. By 7 p.m., I hear the rumble of tires on the driveway, the sound of car doors slamming shut. My heart is a drum in my chest as I open the door to Mark's friends. There are 4 of them, faces I've seen before at barbecues or fleeting hellos, but tonight they feel like strangers wearing familiar masks. There's Tom, a burly mechanic with a laugh that booms too loud for the room, his hands rough from years of wrenching engines. Greg, the quiet accountant, fidgets with his sleeves, his fingers restless, avoiding my gaze. Dave, a construction worker, carries a smirk that never touches his eyes, a cold edge to his presence. And Ryan, Mark's old high school buddy, drawls lazily as he greets me, his voice dripping with a casualness that feels forced. They pile into the living room, dropping a cooler of beers onto the floor with a dull thunk. They crack open cans, the sharp hiss cutting through the tension, and settle onto our beige couch, their crude jokes bouncing off the walls, each laugh sounding more strained than the last. The air is thick, heavy with an unspoken understanding, a weight that presses down on me until I can barely breathe. Mark is in his armchair, a glass of whiskey in his hand, the amber liquid catching the dim light. His eyes are on me, unblinking, intense in a way that makes my skin crawl. He takes a sip, then sets the glass down with a deliberate clink, his voice cutting through the chatter like a blade. She's okay with it. You can start. My heart thunders so loud I'm sure they can hear it, but my body feels detached, like I'm watching myself from above. I stand, my movements mechanical, as if someone else is pulling the strings. What follows is a betrayal so deep it carves a hollow space inside me. I won't paint the details in stark colors, but you can feel the weight of it. The violation that unfolds in slow, agonizing moments, the way I keep my eyes fixed on anything but Mark, the way time stretches into an endless void. I focus on the small things to anchor myself, to keep from drowning in the shame. The scratch of the couch fabric against my skin, rough and unyielding, the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, a mundane sound that feels absurdly out of place. The awkward cough from one of the men afterward, a jagged break in the silence that hangs over us like a shroud. When it's finally over, I stand on shaky legs. The morning after feels like waking up in a stranger's skin. I'm sprawled on the beige couch, the same one that bore witness to last night's unraveling, my body stiff and aching, as if I've been carrying a weight far heavier than I can name. I refused to climb the stairs to our bed, couldn't bear the thought of lying in that space after everything that happened. Dawn creeps through the curtains, casting thin, ghostly slivers of light across the living room floor, and the house is eerily quiet, like it's holding its breath, waiting for me to shatter the silence. My mind is numb, a dull hum where thoughts should be, and as I sit up, the ache in my bones reminds me I'm still here, still tethered to this reality I no longer recognize. I shuffle to the kitchen, my bare feet cold against the tile, and set about making coffee with hands that won't stop trembling. The pot shakes as I pour water into it, a small splash hitting the counter, and I don't even bother to wipe it up. My eyes catch on the living room through the doorway. Empty beer cans are still scattered across the floor like forgotten relics of last night's storm, their metallic glint mocking me in the pale light. The air carries a faint, stale whiff of alcohol, clinging to everything like a bad memory I can't shake. Mark is gone, probably at work, or maybe just anywhere but here. I don't care enough to wonder. The house feels emptier without him, but it's a relief, a small mercy to be alone with the wreckage of my thoughts. I settle at the kitchen table, a chipped mug of black coffee steaming in front of me, and a notepad lies there, untouched, its blank page staring back like a challenge. I grip a pen, but my fingers hover, frozen, unable to mark the paper. Minutes bleed into what feels like hours, and I just sit there, lost in a fog, my gaze fixed on nothing. My mind, though, it wanders. It doesn't linger on last night, not yet, as if it's protecting me from that raw edge. Instead, it drifts to softer times, to the early days with Mark when the world felt brighter, when we felt like us. I see us at a friend's wedding, dancing under a canopy of string lights, my head against his chest, his laugh warm in my ear as we swayed to some slow song I can't remember the name of. I remember another day, a surprise picnic by the lake, the way he spread out a blanket and pulled out sandwiches he'd made himself, grinning like he'd just won a prize. We sat there for hours, watching the water ripple, talking about dreams we never chased. Those memories flood in, vivid and sharp. But they hurt now, because I see them for what they are. Ghosts of a life that's long gone. I've been clinging to them, trying to stitch together something whole from fragments that don't fit anymore. The contrast to now, to this hollow shell of a home, to the weight of what happened last night, it's a blade twisting in my chest. Finally, I press the pen to the page, my handwriting shaky but deliberate, each word a small act of defiance. I did what you asked. Now I'm leaving, and I'll never look back. I read it over once, twice, the words sinking in, becoming real. I fold the paper with careful precision, as if it's the last thing I'll ever do right, and place it on the counter, sliding it under the coffee mug so it won't blow away. A strange calm settles over me then, like a weight lifting, like I've finally let go of something I didn't even know I was holding. It's not joy, not even close, but it's a quiet resolve. A certainty I haven't felt in years. I move through the house with purpose now, heading upstairs to pack. I pull a small suitcase from the closet, the zipper sticking a little as I open it, and start filling it with essentials. A few changes of clothes, a handful of toiletries, a worn paperback I've read a dozen times, its pages yellowed and dog-eared, offering comfort in familiar words. I'm in the cab now, the engine humming softly as we cut through the outskirts of town. My suitcase sits beside me on the cracked leather seat, a silent companion holding the few pieces of my life I could bear to take. I lean forward slightly, my voice steady as I direct the driver to a local motel, a place I've only ever passed by on late-night drives. It's on the edge of town, a forgotten spot where the neon sign flickers erratically, buzzing like a dying insect. Right there, I say, pointing to the weathered building with peeling paint and a sagging awning that looks like it's given up on standing straight. The driver grunts a response, pulling into the gravel lot with a crunch that feels louder than it should in the stillness of the afternoon. I hand over a crumpled wad of bills from my wallet, the last of the cash I've got on me, and step out, the air heavy with the scent of dust and distant exhaust. Checking in is a blur, a transaction of necessity rather than choice. The clerk behind the counter barely looks up from his magazine, his bored expression unchanging as I slide the money across the scratched-up desk. He hands me a key attached to a plastic tag, the number 12 scrawled on it in faded marker. I mutter a thanks he doesn't acknowledge and make my way down the narrow hallway, the carpet underfoot stained and threadbare. My room is at the far end, and when I push the door open, I'm hit with the stale smell of mildew and old cigarette smoke, a scent that clings to everything like a bad memory. The bed sags in the middle, the mattress lumpy under a thin, faded comforter. I sit down anyway, the springs creaking under my weight, and for a moment I just stare at the cracked paint on the wall, letting the silence settle around me like a heavy fog. I can't stay still for long, though. There's a fire in me now, not burning with anger or sadness, but with something else. Something resolute. Something that's been dormant for too long. I pull my phone from my purse, my fingers steady for the first time in days as I tap the screen, searching for a divorce lawyer. The results pop up, a list of names and numbers, and I scroll until one catches my eye. A small firm with a no-frills website, the kind that promises results over flash. I dial the number, my heart thudding, but my resolve unshaken. The receptionist picks up on the second ring, her voice clipped and professional. Law offices of Hargrove and Associates, how can I help you? I take a breath, keeping my tone flat but firm, no room for hesitation. I need to schedule an appointment. It's urgent. I'm filing for divorce. There's a pause, the faint sound of typing on the other end, and then she's back. We've got an opening later today at 3 p.m. Can you make it? I glance at the cheap digital clock on the nightstand, its red numbers glowing dully. Yes, I say. I'll be there. She gives me the address, and I jot it down on a scrap of paper from my purse, the pen scratching against the surface with a finality that feels right. I've got a few hours to kill, so I arrange for a rental car, something cheap and functional, picked up from a lot just a few blocks from the motel. It's a small sedan, the kind that smells faintly of air freshener and past drivers, but it'll do. Driving to the lawyer's office feels like crossing a threshold I can't uncross. The building is downtown, tucked between a diner and a pawn shop, a narrow space with a sign that's seen better days. Inside, it's as cluttered as I expected. Stacks of files teeter on the desk, a faint coffee stain marks a corner of the blotter, and the secretary, a woman with tired eyes and a tight bun, offers me a cup of stale coffee from a pot that's probably been sitting there since morning. I decline with a small shake of my head and sit in the waiting area, a hard plastic chair. It's been a week since I sat in that cluttered lawyer's office, signing the papers that would start the process of untangling my life from Mark's. I'm still at the motel, room 12, with its sagging bed and cracked walls. But I've started to carve out small pieces of a new beginning, even if they're rough around the edges. Each day feels like a tiny step forward, like I'm testing the ground beneath me, making sure it'll hold. I've applied for a part-time job at a diner just a few streets over. A little place called Mabel's with checkered floors and a jukebox that hasn't worked in years. I filled out the application with a pen that kept skipping, my handwriting uneven, but I handed it to the manager with a steady gaze. She looked me over, her eyes sharp but not unkind, and said she'd call if they had an opening. I nodded, thanked her, and walked out into the gray afternoon, feeling a flicker of something like pride for even trying. I've also found a place to call my own, at least for now. It's a tiny apartment above a laundromat, the kind of space that smells faintly of detergent and dampness, no matter how much you air it out. The wallpaper is peeling at the corners, curling up like old secrets, and the linoleum in the kitchen is scuffed beyond repair. But there's a window in the main room, a narrow pane that catches the morning light just right, turning the space golden for a few precious minutes each day. I stood there the first time I saw it, watching dust motes dance in the sunbeams, and felt a quiet certainty that I could make this work. I signed the lease with the last of my savings, handed over the deposit with a hand that didn't shake, and moved in 2 days ago. I bought a cheap set of dishes from a thrift store down the road. Mismatched plates and bowls with faded floral patterns, a few chipped mugs that still hold coffee just fine. I arranged them in the cupboard with care, stacking them neatly, as if setting them out was a promise to myself that this space is mine, that I'm starting over on my terms. I'm sitting at the small folding table I've set up as a makeshift dining spot when my phone buzzes, the screen lighting up with a number I recognize. It's Susan, my lawyer from Hargrove and Associates, her voice crisp and to the point when I answer. Lena, I wanted to let you know that Mark has been served the divorce papers. It's official now. My breath catches for a moment, a reflex I can't control, but I keep my voice even as I ask if there's anything else I need to do. She pauses, the faint rustle of papers in the background, before saying, No, not at this stage. And just so you're aware, he didn't contest anything. Didn't even reach out to discuss it. Her words hang in the air, heavy but not surprising. I thank her, my tone flat, and end the call, setting the phone down with a soft click. I stare at the chipped mug in front of me, the coffee inside gone cold, and let my mind wander to that morning I left. I picture Mark finding my note under the coffee mug on the counter, standing in that beige kitchen with its sterile silence. I see him reading my words, his face as blank as it was that awful night. No flicker of emotion, no trace of regret. Maybe he just folded the paper and tossed it aside, or maybe he stood there longer than I think, staring at the empty space I used to fill. I don't know, and I don't care to. There's no triumph in this moment, no bitterness either, just a quiet acceptance, a door closing softly behind me. This chapter is over, and I'm ready to turn the page. Sitting here, in this little apartment with its flaws and its faint promise, I can't help but think about the emptiness that's haunted me since that night. It's not just about what happened, though the weight of that betrayal still lingers like a shadow I can't quite shake. It's deeper than that. A void that I know I must fill with something new. Something that feels like hope. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.